Today, I have the honor of interviewing Mrs. Brizuela about the hero's journey of her life and career. At our school, we use the metaphor of the hero's journey, which is a specific set of steps that we believe each hero must follow to reach their end goal. It all starts with an ordinary person that is called onto an adventure that they don't want to go on because it forces them to be pushed out of their challenge or of their comfort zone. The hero is resistant to that idea and needs an extra push from the mentor in order to start their journey, crossing the threshold from the ordinary goal into the unknown. The hero then faces a series of challenges that enables them to grow a new set of skills that they need later. The hero then faces death, the absolute bottom, the hardest part of their journey. And even though they think that they're never going to be able to escape it, they do. They have a rebirth and a revelation. Everything finally changes and the hero atones and gets a prize. But in most situations, the prize isn't what we get, the item that we get at the end, but the person that the hero became during the journey. So, you have been on many hero's journeys throughout your lives. Tell me one that really grew you as a person.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Ingrid, for being here and for having me sit on the other side of your interview. I'm very, very honored. First, because you're a girl, and I'm a woman, and I think that the journey that most has struck me all through my life is empowering what a girl, what a young lady, what a professional woman can do, and especially what a Salvadoran citizen can push forward for her own country.
So, if you could go back in time and tell your 13-year-old self one piece of advice, what would you say?
I would definitely say that you have to stick to being your own self. You have to be who you are. You can't try to surpass obstacles because you saw someone do it their own way. You have to do it your own way. You have to be the one, really to push ahead, always being new. I'll give you a very simple example. When I came into the business world, I came into the finance world. Everyone there was very old men. I was the only woman at the board level in the C-suite. And all of them wore dark jackets with ties. So I started wearing dark suits, trying to fit in. It wasn't me. I love colors. And so I realized and I said, no, this is not. I have to be my own. I have to be myself. Even in those very tiny expressions of how you dress or the colors you use. Not a copycat. It's a reflection of what you have in your heart, what you want to portray, how you feel. And I think that has made a difference. If you go, for example, I am a member of the stock exchange here in El Salvador. And there's an old photograph of a board, again, many men, few women. And I'm there standing up amongst the dark suits in a very red, happy suit.
Wow.
So it does make a difference, staying and being your own.
Completely agree. What motivated you to pursue your mission or your path, and how did you get started?
And I'll start with an example for you from my time also in high school, because I hope that resonates even more with you. But I think it was really something that sparked in me that desire to be my own women's self. I was graduating from the American school. And when I was graduating, the way that they would announce who the valedictorian was, first place, was it was put up on a hallway, the big names. But when I came out, my name was in second place. And I went over to the counselor and I said, this is not right. I know I had the, best GPA I've always done, for almost all my entire career. I was always number one. And then he just looked back at me and he said, oh, I know, that's true, but you're a girl. So we bumped you to second place and we put the boy who was following you to become first place.
Wow.
I went back home crying and I thought, my father, a lawyer, he's going to do justice for it. But then he just turned around and he said, Mayu, it's time you realize you are a woman. And what's expected of you is that you get married. That's all. You know? So I went back to the school. I fought on my own. I graduated tied in first place. That's all I got was tied. But the boy was a valedictorian, and they made up something like salutatorian for me. But that injustice, only because I was a girl, stuck with me for so long. And so that has motivated me along my path, along my mission, along many of the circumstances in which I have stood up with a woman's voice, which is, I have to make it clear for you that I am not a feminist in the sense that I am pushing for only a woman's voice to be heard. Not at all. Humanity comes in pairs. Humanity is a boy and a girl, and we complement each other. So I am a feminist for complementing that half of humanity also has to have a say on where we're going. I'm that half bringing the color, you know, my red suit. I'm that half bringing the joy. I'm that half that can bring new life into the world. So that is the way that I see and I've been pushing on.
Wow. Have you noticed a lot of change now with like women being more empowered than when you were younger?
Part of my story also is that my father only agreed to send me to finishing school type of Geneva experience, from then to the Sorbonne in Paris. But it was not what I wanted. For maybe less than a year that I was there in Europe, I phoned my father and I said, Dad, this is not me. I'm living your dream. I'm preparing here to get married. That is not, you know, learning languages, culture, civilization. I loved it. Yes, I do, and I still cherish. Well, a year I did a history of art at the Louvre. I love all of that. But that's not me. And I said, I'm coming back to study law because that's what I want. Because of all that injustice theme that ran alongside me, and I said, I want to do things right for people. So I said, I'm going to study law. He said, I won't support you. So I came back to El Salvador, and I went to the National University, where it was the only university where you could study law at that time. So you asked me, had I seen a difference? Yes. Because when I entered law school here in El Salvador back in 1976, there were very few girls studying law. Later on in life, I became a teacher at Universidad Dr. José Matías Delgado at law school. And I was teaching law there. Half of my class were girls. Yes, I have seen a change. I have seen the empowerment. And I've seen parents who accompany now their girls, not with my father's position, but with the person who supports you so you can become whomever you want. And I'm so glad you nodded over your daddy, who's now our cameraman, because that's what makes a difference. Not only in a girl's life, which is my theme for you today as my hero's journey, but also for a little boy, you know, or a big man. His old dad will always be there.
Wow, that's so, like, I totally agree. Were there any, and if so, what were they, pivotal moments in your career or life that significantly shaped who you are today?
When I started my professional work, I had graduated as a lawyer, and then I got an MBA from INCAE, which is, I must say it, the best Latin American, you know, graduate school for business and others, and I'm so proud of INCAE. So I started working in the private sector all the time, but I got pulled into helping, you know, for example, I was at the Instituto Salvadoreño del Seguro Social, which is the Social Security Association here in the governments, and I was an expert. I had gotten a master's in insurance, and I was an expert at administering, you know, pension funds and things like that. So So they asked me if I could collaborate. So I became part of the board of the Social Security. But that was like, once a month, things like that. But I had that little bug for public service. I wanted to serve in some way. And that happened when President Flores was elected as president of El Salvador. So he turned to a professional team to help him carve out the profiles of his ministers. So they started out with who should be the foreign minister, the Secretary of State. And they say, I wasn't in the meeting, but they say that when they drew up, the characteristics and the skills that that person should have, he just saw it and said, that's mine. And he reached out to me, and it was a crucial turning point in my life because I left private sector, I left private practice, and I became a public servant for 5 full years. So I was the foreign minister, and I had so many opportunities that I would just like to share one with you, which again is a whole hero's journey on its own. Because the downside, we were having so much trouble with Honduras because we did not have a defined territorial boundary between us. So every time an egg would pass the border, a cow, a chicken, cigarettes, it was smuggling, and it would come up all the way to the Secretary of State as though it was an invasion, so it was very messy. So I told them, my team, I said, we're going to fix this. We're going to negotiate to have the borderline set between Honduras and El Salvador. And they all said, oh, that cannot be done. What are you thinking? You're going to lose all of your political capital and your reputation. We even had a war with Honduras at that time 20 years ago because of disputes on the border also, and land invasions that they said from our part, from Salvadorans. But I said, I'm here to serve. I'm here to do what's right, not to think what's going to hurt me. It's what I can do to help my country. So I organized a team. I did a lot of political work. I went over to Honduras and spoke with the cardinal. Why not the government? It was the cardinal because you need allies. And I told him, this is what I want to do. And he completely agreed. Then we spoke with governments. Both presidents agreed on what we had to do. We looked for an intermediary, which is the OAS, the Organization of American States. And so 2 teams, technical teams from each country, they were arranged with an intermediary, which was the OAS, and they would climb into the mountains. If you've been to Trifino, to the borderline of where Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador meet.
You have, but you don't remember. You were little.
Monte Cristo and so many beautiful landscapes. That's a jungle. And so we had to climb in and with donkeys take the equipment to be able to set it where we thought the geodesical position, and then we would put a stake on the ground when it was all agreed between the 3 of us. So that was almost 300 kilometers that we did, all the way to the Gulf of Fonseca. And the border was arranged. I went even to The Hague, to the International Court of Justice, to have all of that ratified. The only thing missing now is the water demarcation. And at that will be another hero's journey, which will be another hero to be able to finish that and hopefully do it as waterways that belong to Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Wow, that was so impressive. Amazing. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
I would like to say that my greatest accomplishment, anywhere that I have been, I am very proud of the teams that we have been able to put together. I think leadership has so much to do with understanding that you are a servant leader. that you're there to serve and you're there to accompany. You're not there to be Hercules, lifting up all the weight by your own. You will one day get crushed by the stone, or they will find your weakness and be gone. It is creating the team that's most appropriate for the task, like I did for the demarcation of the border with Honduras, or as I did when I became the first woman president of a bank here in El Salvador. What did I do? I surrounded myself with the best of the best in regards to people like Gerardo Siman or others who have continued on in the financial sector, and making a team that is encouraged by a common purpose, that are not afraid to engage in risk as long as you know that you are mitigating it and that you are bound by solidarity and trust. So I think that, when things like that happen, it's when you feel that that type of team can do anything. And I'll tell you that one story from the bank. I became part of HSBC, which is one of the world's largest financial institutions. I was one of the very few women CEOs around the world. But I thought that my journey as in a banking, president and CEO was over. I want something with more impact, more impactful. And I saw that HSBC had an agenda that was called corporate sustainability, that has to do, and this is way back here in the year, I would say 2006, when, being green and conscious of the environment wasn't as sexy. But I went over to London and I told them, you have this agenda that you're not implementing in Latin America. You have it in the US, you have it in Europe, you have it in China, in Southeast Asia, but you don't have it here. I want to take it on. So that was another journey I was going to start from scratch. I was bringing on a new function into Latin America that was to oversee how the bank could support the development of a more ecological vision from the side of the bank. And I'll be quick in telling you how, in practical terms, you can see it. So every loan that was about $10 million had to go through me. And I had Mexico to Argentina. And the loan, we denied one to a gentleman who was trying to expand his textile plant. He was going to make some blue jeans to export to the USA. And he came back and he said, I want to talk to you. You denied the credit. And he said, I can pay you back. And I said, yes. You passed on the economic and financial because you can pay. You passed in regards to the capacity that you have on production, but you did not pass. You have a stream, a water stream that's right beside your plant where you're going to dump all of the chemicals after dyeing the jeans. You did not pass on the social aspect. You have two indigenous small, aldeas, towns, but very, very, small towns that are downstream. You are going to poison them, with all of that chemical that is going to be dumped into the water. The only way that you can pass with us to get that loan is that you install a water treatment plant. And he said, but not even the government is asking me to do that. Because as I say, this was way back in time. And we were advancing a new idea. So the challenge there is how to convince someone of a new idea and that he could see how profitable it would be for him. And I said, have you heard of why Nike had to stop selling Nike shoes in the US? It was boycotted by the buyers, especially young people, because they found out that Nike was building and constructing and manufacturing the shoes with child labor. And so I said, do you want New York boutiques with your jeans being boycotted by buyers who will be there saying, you are poisoning the fish, you are killing the flora, you are killing the children downstream. That is what's going to happen to you. He realized that he accepted it, and he rebranded, he became the most eco-friendly gene. He sold everything. He did realize.
Wow, that's amazing. What is your number one goal in life?
To serve. Service. That is my number one goal. And you can translate that into, I am a mother of 3, and a grandmother of 3, and I like to serve them too. Serving in the way that I can support, in the way that I can be present. For example, 2 of my grandchildren just had their birthdays, and they live in San Diego. So we took a plane with my husband, for the long weekend. We were there in San Diego at Del Mar at the beach, celebrating their birthday, going up and down in regards, it was hot, and getting things ready, and jumping into the cold sea, because for us it's cold, for them it was nothing. But service comes in many ways. Service is accompaniment. Service is, providing for you. Serving my clients. Serving clients when I also became the first woman president of an insurance company. Being there present for when disasters happen. Yes, they do. And that is why you have an insurance. But then you want to be served. You want to be that what you paid for is, and you not only get that, but you got even more. So that's solidarity, that's empathy. There's so much that comes with service.
My dream job is Secretary of State of the United States. I've been looking into it for almost a year now, or maybe even more. And it's always interested me, so it's so amazing that I got to interview you on this. But if you could give young students and girls like me who want to pursue a career in politics or economics or law, what would you say?
Well, I think you've started on the right foot, because you have set yourself up with a goal. You have a purpose. You found meaning in what you wanted. And that's exactly what happened. If you go back to my own story, when I told my father I want to become a lawyer, and came back from Europe, and went to the National University. You are starting already with a purpose. So when you have a purpose, you have to set yourself up for that. What does that, what do I need? Study. You have to prepare yourself for that. Boy, the state has fantastic schools, and one that I would definitely recommend if you're thinking of diplomacy as, a path forward, is the Fletcher School of Diplomacy. That's in Tufts in Boston. And that you do also as a graduate school. But you can set up yourself first academically, and then you have to really manage your energy. That's my second point for everyone. Being whatever you want to do, you have a purpose, you set a goal, then you manage your energy. Why? We have ups and downs, especially girls, women, because of our biological clock. We do have our period every month. That brings us down. Girls have an increased potential of being depressed than boys. Happens also with women as we grow older. And so we have to know when our downside is down, to be able to lift ourselves, to be able to understand that we're going to manage our energy. And then we're ready to tackle any task. The third thing that I would tell you is that you have to have always a positive frame. You have to always have a positive outlook. That glass is half full, it's not half empty. That positive framing allows you then to be able to look at the world as it is. Remember what I told you about assessing risk and managing risk? You do that with positive framing, because if you are a negative person, what happens? You look at a problem and you always say, oh, I'm beaten. That, no one can surpass that. Oh, that is absolutely impossible. You're already half beaten. But if you start out saying, oh no, I know, if I had to get to the other side, yes, it's tough getting through that river, but if I build a bridge, if I step on the stones, you have a plan, you manage risk with positive framing. first woman to be the Secretary of State of the United States. When I was the first woman also Secretary of State for El Salvador, and we met back in 1999 in New York at the United Nations, we were only 9 women foreign ministers out of 200 countries. So she started a club. Madeline said, no, so let's get connected. Let's support each other. Let's stand beside each other. And so she made this club where the only rule was that you had to answer back if I called you. That was the only rule. So can you imagine? That she was once, she told me, Maya, you know there's these countries, big, large countries, they're all asking, why is it that you, little El Salvador, get a direct line to the State Department and they don't? They have to go through all the bureaucracy. That's connecting. When Madeline died, I lost a dear friend. I would see her every single year. Every single year we would meet. When you truly connect and you surpass, you may start because you have a common interest or you have something that you have to overcome together. No, but when you really, that connection becomes, you really become peers. I was honorary pallbearer to her funeral, walking behind her casket at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. So that's how connecting can truly, if you work at it, when you have a purpose and you manage your energy and you're framing positively and you connect with the right people, the last thing is get involved. Don't just dream about it. Get your feet in the water. And it's not sink or swim. No, you prepare yourself and you're ready to tackle and become the Secretary of State of the United States of America. Good luck, Ingrid.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for your loss, and I really love the metaphor you used about the glass. I've always thought about that. Think about it a lot. Thank you so much for letting me interview you. It was amazing, and I'd love to hear about your story. Thank you so much.